going to be Director Mark Ghilarducci. He's the director here at the Governor's Office of Emergency Services. He'll be followed by the Director Ken Pimlott of CAL FIRE, and then Warren Stanley, who's the Commissioner of the California Highway Patrol, and then David Baldwin, who's the Adjutant General of the California National Guard. As soon as they're done giving their remarks, we'll take a few questions. We're not going to be able to do a whole lot of questions this morning because there's some things that they need to get to right afterwards, but we'll do our best. We also have Bob Fenton from FEMA here as well, who will not be speaking but could answer questions if there's any specifics for FEMA. So with that, we'll start with Director Ghilarducci.
Thanks, Kelly. All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Ghilarducci, the director here at the Governor's Office of Emergency Services. Well, let me start by saying that literally the last 48 hours here in California have been extremely challenging, starting with the tragic shooting in Thousand Oaks and requirement to support the communities in Ventura County, followed by the fire that broke out up in Butte County, the Camp Fire, which has been an extremely challenging fire and has resulted in significant and catastrophic loss for that community, the communities of Paradise specifically, just outside of Chico. And then a number of fires that broke out over the evening down in Southern California, two again in Ventura County, and both of them relatively significant. The magnitude of the destruction that we are seeing is really, again, unbelievable and heartbreaking, and our hearts go out to everybody who has been infected by this and impacted. We know that there have been injuries, and we know that there have been loss of life, and we are still accounting for that and working with our local authorities who will, as they get a better handle on the number of fatalities and people impacted, will start to share that information as it gets confirmed. The leaders you see behind me here represent just part of our entire state's response system that is involved with responding to these events statewide. Obviously, California is a very large state, and we've got all hands on deck being able to effectively respond to all of these emergencies as they evolve and new ones. It's important to note that weather-wise, we are literally in a statewide red flag weather warning. Fire weather conditions are extreme, and we are seeing it from literally border to border, which is making our job obviously much harder. And everything here at the State Operations Center, from the state perspective, in support of our local governments, is being coordinated here at the State Operations Center. So we have representatives from all the state agencies located here, and right now they're really trying to get assessments on the amount of damage, the amount of loss, what resources are required, and being able to continue to fill open orders for all different kinds of assets and supplies. Currently, we have roughly about 105,000 people evacuated in Southern California at the two fires, the Hill Fire and the Woolsey Fire, and roughly about 52,000 evacuated in Northern California, predominantly around the Camp Fire. Roughly 1,860 mutual aid firefighters from fire departments up and down California. These are local government fire agencies that participate in the mutual aid system that are responding to these fires throughout California. That's nearly 500 mutual aid fire engines, and as I say, 1,860 firefighters. We also have hundreds of law enforcement officers from agencies up and down the state that are supporting law enforcement mutual aid, providing security, assisting with evacuations, and any other kind of assessment that's required, search and rescue operations, etc. And we currently are requesting additional firefighting assistance from our neighboring states through the Emergency Management Assistance Compact. We have reached out to Oregon, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Wyoming, and Washington for seeing how many resources that we can get to come in. We are not just responding to what's in front of us, but we are also contemplating what the next 24 and 48 hours are going to look like. We know that the winds will die down, but then we are going to be picking up another wind event that'll be starting late Sunday and going into early next week. So we really need to be thinking about this from a strategic standpoint. This morning, Acting Governor Newsom did sign a new proclamation for states of emergency for Ventura and Los Angeles County. That's in addition to the state of emergency that he proclaimed yesterday for Butte County and the Camp Fire. Today's proclamation takes into account the Hill and the Woolsey fire, and that will ensure that additional resources and any regulatory impediments, any state public safety assets are applied effectively. And of course, yesterday, as was noted, he did make a request up through the White House for direct federal assistance. Direct federal assistance is not a major disaster declaration. It is just what it says. It's being able to get direct federal assets to support our firefighting and search and rescue operations. And then, in addition, we were able to secure yet another federal fire management assistance grant last night. That's 3 that we were able to obtain over the last 24 hours to support the various fires in Southern California. So our priorities will continue to be to support firefighting and life-saving operations, supporting CAL FIRE and the other local government fire agencies that are directly responsible for suppressing the fire, providing whatever resources needed for life-saving operations. Our second priority will continue to be evacuations and supporting sheltering operations for these great number of people that have been evacuated. The third is support our local government in identifying victims and identifying missing persons. And the fourth will really be to start working on our damage assessment so we can get a better idea about seeking additional assistance where necessary, particularly when we're seeing the amount of loss that we're seeing in the Camp Fire up in Paradise. So with that, let me turn it over to our next speaker, Director Ken Pemlott of CAL FIRE will go over all our firefighting operations. Chief.
Thank you, Director Ghilarducci. Good morning. As the director mentioned, red flag conditions, critical fire weather across all of California. And although wind may change in different places throughout and be more intense and reduce at times, we are basically looking at a very significant, dangerous weather pattern through the rest of this weekend and into early next week throughout all of California. So when this first fire, when the Camp Fire started yesterday morning, just over 24 hours ago at 6:33 in the morning, it was immediately met with over 40-mile-an-hour winds. That fire, from the second it started, was off to the races, quickly grew within minutes to 200, 1,000 acres, and was well off to burning at dangerous rates of spread. These are the kinds of conditions that we're seeing across California. We've been talking about this year after year. Critical dryness of our vegetation, winds that are blowing in excess of 40 or 50 miles an hour. What we have this morning, as Director Ghilarducci said, we have fire departments from all over California. We have CAL FIRE. We have the California Conservation Crew, hand crews. We have our inmate fire crews, and many others. Over 6,000 firefighters on the fire lines this morning across the state. We've got 6 major fires burning, but the 3 are critical. The Camp Fire in Butte County, and the 2 in Ventura County, the Hill Fire and the Woolsey Fire. In particular, the Woolsey Fire burned very rapidly overnight, crossing Highway 101 in Ventura County, and is burning in a trajectory towards the Pacific coast. And in this area, fire history over the decades has shown under these Santa Ana wind conditions that will be continuous throughout today there in that area, will continue to drive that fire in that direction. So again, we are monitoring all of this. As Director Ghilarducci said, we have ordered up additional fire engines, over 100 fire engines from outside of California, bringing those additional resources in. But we are a long ways from being out of the firefight. Right now, our focus is on life safety. There are active rescues continuing to go on all of these fires, and in particular the Camp Fire in Butte County. Folks have talked about it. Yesterday, fire conditions were critical. We had hundreds of fire resources and law enforcement resources in the area, but often folks talk about aircraft. We have every available aircraft signed up and available and responding to us here throughout the state. The challenge is high winds and visibility oftentimes hamper the ability to use those aircraft effectively, but we are using them in every opportunity that we get. They were flying all the fires yesterday and putting in containment lines or control lines wherever they can. We will continue to put them into the fight, but understand right now it's all hands on deck to rescue people and ensure getting people out of harm's way. And we will continue to trigger evacuations wherever necessary to ensure we get people out of harm's way. In particular, Butte County, well practiced at organizing disasters. We all know what has occurred over the years, particularly in this community of Paradise and the other mountain communities. Fire has been in these areas before. This is a community that has continued to prepare with fire safe councils. They have been doing fuels treatments, working very diligently, but they also know the risk where they live. And these were well practiced evacuations. The process has been in place, but understand how quickly that fire has been spreading, as well as the ones in Southern California. Again, it just points right back to our message and what our message continues to be every day here in California. Every day is fire season somewhere in California. Every day we have the potential for these large, damaging, destructive, and deadly wildland fires. And so again, we really put this back to the public. Fire agencies, law enforcement, public safety, everyone is responding with every tool in the toolbox. But we need the public to continue to listen to the message, pay attention to evacuation information, follow very closely all of the public safety social media, Ready for Wildfire, many others, local counties, law enforcement. Pay very close attention. Pay a close attention to your neighbors. As folks saw in the news yesterday, literally what happened in Paradise was neighbor helping neighbor. Make sure your neighbor knows what's going on. Be prepared to evacuate with your neighbors so that everyone gets out. We will continue to obviously prepare, provide resources throughout the remainder of these conditions. With that, I'd like to turn it over to the Commissioner of the Highway Patrol, Warren Stanley.
Thank you, Director Pinlot, and working with my partners back here from the other state agencies. For these fires, the three main fires that we've spoken about, we have 125 personnel assigned to those fires. Most of those personnel are assigned to the Camp Fire in Butte County, approximately 75, and they're assisting with traffic control and evacuation and other things that come up as may be needed. Also down in Southern California, the fires in Ventura County, we have personnel there. What we have done so we can move our resources around more easily, here, all the CHP offices here in Sacramento County, they've been put on tactical alert. They are all on 12-hour shifts. So we have the ability to move them around to different fires as they expand or as new fires come up in order to provide support. We also have a number of air assets, our helicopters for traffic monitoring and also rescue if needed. And as Director Pinlot said, we're in it for the long haul. We're at the very, very beginning of this. We appreciate the public support. And I would ask, and I know my partners back here behind me would also ask that the areas where the fires are, please stay out of those areas. Have a lot of equipment, law enforcement officers, fire department personnel coming in and out of those areas, moving a lot of equipment in and out to fight these fires and get them out as soon as possible so we can get the people back into their neighborhood as soon as possible. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to David Baldwin, the General of the California National Guard.
Thanks, Commissioner. I'm Major General Dave Baldwin, the Adjutant General of California, which means I command the California Army National Guard, the Air National Guard, and our State Military Reserve. We currently have 185 personnel on duty, predominantly providing support to the Camp Fire. That includes air crews that are flying both manned and unmanned aircraft for incident awareness. We're bringing in satellite imagery experts to assist with damage assessments and fire mapping through space-based systems. We also have 100 military police officers that are heading to Butte County to assist the Sheriff's Department with evacuations and securing the evacuated areas. The rest of the California National Guard is on alert and prepared to deploy throughout the state if necessary. I'll be followed by Director Ghilarducci.
Okay, thanks, General Baldwin. Any questions we can answer?
I know you guys don't
it's still pretty hard to assess. We know that there was a lot of movement of people trying to get out of the Paradise area yesterday. We know there are fatalities, but we really can't put a number on it quite yet.
Do you know how people died? Were people stuck in their homes or their cars?
Pretty early to tell. Yeah. Anything else?
How quickly were people notified, and how did you notify people about evacuations?
So the Sheriff's Department in Butte County was able to send information out, make notifications, and a lot of that, the fire moved so fast, many notifications were made by deputies and other public safety personnel actually going from house to house to make notifications. So it was sort of a combination of different sort of methods for being able to make notifications.
When you talk about the fatalities, are they all civilian, or do we know if there anybody who was assisting firefighters?
Do not know yet, although I think we can say with surety we don't have any reports of public safety personnel that have been in. First responders, that is correct. Yeah. Okay, anything else? All right, thank you, everyone. We'll move it back over to Kelly, and you'll identify next time we'll do this.
We don't have another press conference scheduled for today. However, if things do change, we will do another one here. Please pay attention to the local press conferences, both in Butte County and down in Ventura and Los Angeles counties. We'll also have an archive of this video for live streaming, from the live stream, available for people to review, and then a roll-up of the facts that came out of this press briefing. So thank you, everybody.